Welcome back to Nourished Inside Out, the space where growth gets real and self love leads the way. I'm your host, Annetta Walklaw, and before we dive into today's episode, I want to remind you of something powerful. You are worthy, you are enough, and you don't need to wait for permission to love yourself fully. That's exactly why I wrote my book, Blooming with Self Love, to give you the tools, affirmations, and daily mindset shifts to help you stand in your power and own your story. This book isn't just words on a page, it's a movement. So if you're ready to stop shrinking and start showing up for yourself, grab your copy today with the link in the show notes below, and let's walk this self love journey together. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Nourished Inside Out. Today I'm here with Zulma Williams. Zulma is a licensed clinical social worker, also known as a swearing therapist, but she is somebody who likes to keep it real, and she is the founder of Dragonfly Therapy Services. Thank you so much for joining us today, Zulma.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.
Absolutely. I remember when we first initially talked and when we met, you were telling me a little bit about your background on how you're from Argentina. Can you talk us through that journey of what it's like growing up in Argentina and how it was for you to move to the States?
Yes, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm the baby of 4. So I got away with a lot of crap that my siblings could not get away with. And growing up, I finished, I went to school, I finished high school, I went to the university there to be an optometrist. And then after I graduated with my degree, I couldn't find a job. So I ended up working as a proofreader in a company that published books. And I was like, okay. I was 31. I had lost my job. I was living with my mom. And I was like, I think I'm going to go to the States and see what happens, right? Like I didn't have as I said, I didn't have a job. I was still living with my mom. I didn't have a partner at the time. So I was like, well, if not now, when, right? So when you have nothing to lose. So I took it as an adventure to move to America. It was a dream that I had since I was a teenager. I moved in December of 1996, and it was stepping into a movie, like all the Christmas decorations, the Christmas lights, and it was like, oh my God, just like in the movies. And then reality set up pretty quick, but at the first 2 weeks were like walking in a movie. And it was a huge cultural shock. I didn't speak the language. I knew how to read and write English because I had English throughout high school, but I didn't know how to speak. So communicating was challenging, and then verbally communicating was a challenging. And then when I first came, I was going to a school to learn English as second language. But it was a similar thing because we were not practicing verbal communication, right? Like, so I learned Mexican when I was taking ESL classes because there was like 20 of us. 18 were Mexican, and a Chinese girl, poor girl, she couldn't communicate with anybody. And then me. So like the Mexicans were telling me, like in Argentina, we said, shh, pollo, right? And in Mexico, say pollo. So it's like they were teaching me how to speak Mexican, and I was teaching them how to speak Argentinian. And then I was living in a mostly Hispanic neighborhood, and then I moved into a more white neighborhood, if you will, and that's when I started speaking like there was no tomorrow, because like I had to, like it. So my first thing when I moved over there was more slowly, please, right? Because we have a tendency to speak really fast in our first language. And I was working at a laundromat, so I need to ask how you wanted the shirts, right? Like low starch, medium starch, or heavy starch. So I was like, motherfucker, slow down, or you're going to have the shirts how I want them. You know what I mean? Like, so it was like, more slowly, please. And then I just like you learn. You have no choice but to learn. So yeah.
That's so interesting. I love that you talk about that though, of like living in a cultural neighborhood, because I remember I spent the last year living in Mexico, and I recently moved back to the States a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like, like it's good. I can work on my English because I've been speaking a lot of Spanglish. So I moved to Miami and people don't speak English here. So I'm just like back into like
And it's
the
a
learning
different kind of
Spanish.
Spanish because a lot of Dominicans and Cubans. So
Exactly. It's very different. So I'm like, I just don't understand what's going on, and they don't understand me half the time. But I think that like having fun with that, it really does make the process easier. What kind of setbacks did you face when you were moving to the US other than language barrier, and how did you overcome those setbacks?
So a lot of most of my setbacks at the very beginning were with my family. So I moved in with my uncle, and that's the only family that I had here, and it was my mom's brother. And I was 31, and he was trying to control me, like who did I speak to and who did I write to, and he was like, you need to cut ties with Argentina, like you only talk to your family. And I was like, sir, I'm 31 years old, you know what I mean? Like, so once I moved, I was like, okay, like a lot of the food is different, of course the language, getting used to the public transportation. I was in California, so thank God in um, Playa del Rey, which is right next to LAX. So there was a lot of public transportation available, but like, so I rode the bus like there was nobody's business because I didn't have a car. And then sharing the space, like I was renting a room from a couple in California, and I was like, I always live with my family, right? Like, so it was like kind of like adjusting to that. But I think that if we take it as an adventure, it's like, so now you're going to learn Dominican and you're going to learn Cuban, right? Like in addition to
Exactly.
Mexican. So it's like you're going to speak four languages, right? And there's a lot of Argentinians in Miami too. So if you see Messi, please tell him I love him. So
I definitely will.
and so they are going to learn four different three additional Spanish ways of speaking in Spanish, right? Like, so it's like if you take it as an adventure, I think that a lot of people were appreciative that I was trying to speak the language, right? Like, so even if I say something wrong, they were like meeting me halfway. But I also found a lot of bullying, right? Because of my accent, because I didn't say the word correctly. And I'm like, come on, like if you put of you, you're gonna understand what I'm trying to say, right? Like, so, adjusting to, we have the opposite season with Argentina. So right now it's really cold over there, and my birthday is at the end of June. So it was my first time celebrating my birthday in summer, like I always froze my ass over there, and now I'm at the beach, right? Like, so, but at the time, I didn't have, although my mom gave me her blessing and she said, if it doesn't work out, you can always come back. I didn't consider that giving up was an option. And then it became kind of like the motto for my life, right? That after everything that developed after, but it was like, oh, okay, so it is hard, but it was hard over there too. So pick your heart, right? Like, not working is hard. Not having a job is hard, and having a job that you hate is hard. Pick your heart, right? Being single is hard, but being married is hard. Pick your heart, right? Like, it's like you start kind of like embracing the challenges because they make you stronger.
Absolutely. It goes into choose your heart, exactly like what you said. It's which one do you prefer? Do you like being single is hard, but being married is hard. Working a job that you hate is hard, but working a not no job at all is hard too. I love how you said that. Choose your heart. Something that really inspired me about you, and it's just like so incredible, is that when you came to the States, you didn't know English very well, but you still enrolled in university. Can you take us through that journey and what that was like?
Yes, that was later on, but I continued to take the English as second language classes until I reached the university level. They were like, okay, we have no more classes for you. Now you had to go to school. But it wasn't until I was 42, so this about 11 years later, that I was working in a big company doing accounting, and I started reflecting about my future, and I was like, I don't think I want to be doing this for another 25 years. So, and I always had this dream of being a therapist, and I had people coming to me all my life telling me, sharing stuff that they've said that I never told that to anybody. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe I can start charging for this shit, like, um, so I enroll in my Bachelor of Social Work, and I want to make a point of saying, like, a lot of times when we are trying something new, we have this black and white mentality that, oh, if I'm going to try something new, I have to kind of like leave everything behind. And I was doing both things. So I continued to work in accounting while I was going to school and building a different future for myself. So you don't have to pick one over the other. It's like more, okay, I am going and continue to do this job, but at the same time, I'm creating a different path for my future, right? So I graduated at 46 with my Bachelor of Social Work. I was on track to do my master's, and 6 weeks after I graduated, I got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
So, hello, like, life is what happens when you have other plans. So I moved back to Argentina, and I had my surgery in radiation here, but then I moved back to Argentina, and I was there for about 3 years. And then I started like, you know what? I think that I want to go back to the States. Like, it was a huge cultural shock going back to Argentina after about 15, 17 years of being here. I was like, my friends were like, you need to calm down, because I was so pissed, right? Like, the customer service is really bad. The services that don't function. So I'm like, no, there is another way, because I live in the United States of America, like, they were like, you need to calm down or you're going to have a stroke, right? Like, so
Yeah.
okay. So I remember why I left, right? But a significant thing happened when I was there. So a year and a half after I moved back, my mom unexpectedly passed away. So in the big scheme of things, I think that I was meant to be there and allow her to transition peacefully, because she saw me that I was doing well. Right? It wasn't like I was telling her like, no, I'm fine, and then hanging up the phone and she doesn't know how I'm doing. She saw me that I was doing well. And I started thinking like, okay, I want to go back to America. I want to celebrate my 50th birthday in America. And I started planning to come back. And then I asked God for a sign. Is this the right thing for me to do? And be careful what you ask for. So out of the blue, I received an email from University of Nevada, Las Vegas. That's where I graduated with my Bachelor of Social Work. You know how you are a student, so like you have the university email. But because I wasn't a student, that became deactivated. So this email was to my personal email from the university saying like, hey, we have our advanced program back. Do you want to enroll? And I was like, okay, Lord, like, like, so, because when I graduated, they removed the advanced Master of Social Work program, and that allows you to graduate in 1 year. And that's why I was doing the Bachelor of Social Work, because in order to enroll to that particular master's degree, you had to have a Bachelor of Social Work. So I was like, yes, I do want to enroll. So and it was such a confirmation, like I asked for a sign, and I got a banner, right? Like, to me, it was like, okay, like, this is the right thing to do. So I came back in 2015, a month short of my 50th birthday. So I celebrated my birthday. I started school. I graduated in 1 year. Very intense program. And, if anything, cancer came to show me how bad I wanted to be a therapist, because it delayed me, but it didn't stop me, right? Like I always say, I had cancer. Cancer didn't have me. Because, and that can apply for any challenge. It doesn't have to be cancer. You can take the challenge and kind of like evaluate what is the challenge showing you. Because he came to tell me, like, okay, do you really want to do this? Because nobody would have blamed me if I'm like, well, I got cancer, I'm not going to continue, right? It was like, but I was like, no, I do feel better. So at the beginning, the treatment is very intense. Like, I was going to the hospital every 3 weeks and having a lot of appointments. But then as time goes by, it becomes more like an appointment once a month or once every 3 months. So I'm like, okay, I can manage that. And I came back and I reestablished I actually got a new oncologist when I came back, and whom I love. He is so awesome. And I became a very, even when I had cancer, I became a very active part of my medical team, right? Like, because they will be like, okay, we're gonna do this. Like, when I went to Argentina, and by no means this is medical advice to anybody who is listening, I'm just sharing my experience of what worked for me. They wanted to do the chemo that is so aggressive, and I asked, what is the percentage that you give me for this? And they were like 50-50. I said, no, you got to do better than that. And they were like, well, no, so I had to, and I told them, like, I signed whatever you want me to sign, coming from America, like, I'm not going to sue you if the cancer comes back, but I'm not going to do that. Not as a prevention, right? Like, so, I signed, I had to meet with their attorneys. Like, I was risking not being accepted as a patient because I was not following the hospital protocol. And then they came up with an alternative treatment. It was a type of chemo, but it wasn't so aggressive. Oh, see, there are other ways of doing this shit, right? Like,
Wow.
but my oncologist over there is a woman, and she said, if it was me, I will do it. And I said, with all due respect, doctor, it's not you.
Wow.
Because this is my body. If I don't take care of my body, who would, right? Like, if I don't fight for my body. So when my doctor gets diagnosed, God forbid, I hope never, but if she gets diagnosed with breast cancer, she can do whatever she thinks that is better for her. But this was an informed decision. I was doing a lot of research. Like, no, 50-50, like, that's kind of like bombing the house to kill the mouse that the mouse already left. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, so I invite our listeners to inform themselves, to ask questions, to find out more information so that you can make an informed decision. We have like this respect that, oh, is the doctor, and the doctor is going through what the hospital protocol is. But so you know about cancer, but I know about this is my body. I am the expert in my own life, right? Like you're the expert on cancer, but I'm the expert on my body.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to question, like, why is it that you are, and that's why I love my oncologist here, because he includes me and explain why we are doing whatever the fuck it is that we are doing. So it's like, okay, a funny story with my oncologist. When COVID hit, I was against the vaccine, right? Like, so I was like, he was like, I recommend that you get the vaccine. And he said, I got it. My wife got it. I brought my mom from California to get it, like, so he wasn't telling me something that he was not doing, right? And I was like, no, because the vaccine is like, it was too fast. And then I started reflecting. And I was like, bitch, you're trusting this man with your cancer diagnosis. You don't get to pick and choose what you trust him with, right? Like, so, and I was like, if I trust him to continue to make me healthy with the cancer, why am I questioning something that doesn't fit my understanding of, right? Like, so, and then a week later, I got the vaccines, right? Because I was like, wait a minute, I do trust him, right? Like, so, and sometimes we get that, right? Like, oh, I trust you with this, but not with this. And it's like, how's that making sense? Right?
Yeah, that's really powerful. And what you were just saying, I kind of want to go back to what you said. You said you had cancer, but cancer didn't have you. And I think that's really powerful because it's a mindset that you've accumulated. Like, yes, this is a challenge that I've come across, but I am stronger than this challenge. And whatever it takes to overcome it, I'm going to do. But you also added in, ask as many questions as possible, because I think this can go either way. We go to the doctor and we believe every single thing the doctor says and tells us to do, or we don't. I don't really feel like there is a middle way sometimes, like, oh, I believe this, but I don't believe that. It's usually all yes or all no. So I think that's really great that you were like, just ask more questions, because I think us as humans in general, I don't think we ask enough questions, whether it's in school or in your job or when you're at the doctor's office. I don't think we ask enough questions, and the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. So I'm really glad that you said that.
Yes. And I think that a lot of times like, you brought a great point, like, oh, I don't ask a question in school. And a lot of times it's because I don't want to look stupid. But if you go ahead and you ask a question, then a lot of your classmates are going to be like, oh, yeah, I wanted to ask that. Well, motherfuckers, why didn't you ask? Right? But the thing is that if you don't ask the question, there is another component. I don't want to be a burden, right? The doctors have very short time with us. And I'm like, and I understand that, but I'll take it as you have a job because I have cancer. So I'm not a burden to you.
Mm-hmm.
Not on I'm not a burden. All the other patients might feel like a burden, and not me. Mm-hmm. So if I have questions, I want the questions to be answered, right? So I will write the questions down. And the thing is that I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but in that process, I'm making me uncomfortable. Somebody's going to get uncomfortable. But in my quest to protect everybody, I'm making myself uncomfortable, because if I don't ask that question, I cannot make that decision with all the information available, right? Like, so it's like, well, I'll figure it out. well, wait a minute. How about we start making other people uncomfortable rather than only being me, the one who is uncomfortable? And that is a mindset that needs to shift, where it's like, no, you know what? I'm a patient. And you have a job because I have cancer. You have a job because I have an issue. And it's the same with my clients. I'm like, when I have a new, when I do a consultation with a potential new client, I tell them, you are interviewing me as much as I'm interviewing you.
Yeah.
So ask questions. Like, if you're not comfortable, don't continue. Find another professional, right? Like, change. Oh, I don't want to start all over again. If you are a bad driver, should I get out of the car or just keep praying that we get to the destination? And you know what I mean? It's like, if I know you're a bad driver, like, the next red light, I might get the fuck out of the car. Like, you know? So, but we have like that mindset, oh, I don't want to be the patient who creates trouble. Well, your line is in the way, right? When your life is on the line, like, I'm going to ask all the questions that I consider necessary. And that's why I love my oncologist. And there was always a knock on the door when he was with me, because our appointments extend way past what the insurance allowed. But I was like, no, I'll took my time doing my own research. And that's when Google comes in handy. Not to diagnose myself, but to ask, to like research which questions to ask so that I can make an informed decision, right? So it's like, okay, what can I don't know about this, so let me do the research, but not to diagnose myself and not go to the doctor, but to ask better questions to take advantage of my time with the doctor.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of times we can go to Dr. Google and just type in questions on what we're experiencing and then take it really to heart on what Google is telling us. But I like how you rephrased that and you said, ask Google to help you ask questions. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't go to medical school, how do you know what questions to ask?
Right.
How do you know more? Because all you know is all you know. And if you're, for example, a social worker, you didn't go to medical school, so it's a completely different field. So it's like, how do you know what to ask? It's your responsibility to ask people that work with you questions to help them get their results. But I also feel like people in the, like doctors in the medical industry, they probably see so many people, they don't even get a chance to ask all the questions. So it's also up to you to ask those questions as well.
And I think that because doctors deal with this every day of their lives, they don't seem to tell you stuff because it's not important to them, because they've seen it so many times. And I understand that, but this is my life we're talking about. This is my first time getting cancer, right? Like, my surgeon, who was an asshole, and I hope that he retired already, he said, you're going to have a scar this big. Are you okay with that? And I said, yes. Well, he forgot to mention that I was going to have that scar, and a scar like this, 2 years after the surgery.
Wow.
Like 24 hours after my surgery, I had to take a shower, right? So they were telling me how to do it, blah, blah, blah. I came out of like all bandages and whatever, and I had to take a shower. So my friend who was taking care of me, she needed to go to work. She said, you want me to stay? I'm like, girl, please just go. Now, I need to mention, I see 2 drops of blood together and I pass out. Okay. Like, so I'm unraveling everything. And my scar was like this. I had the staples, I had the stitches, and girl, I had to sit on the bathroom floor for like 15 minutes. I almost passed out, right? Like, so he was fast forwarding to the end result.
Okay.
not to what the fuck I was going to see tomorrow.
Wow.
And I think that it's because they become so desensitized because they do it day in and day out. So it's like, yeah, my scar was going to be like this. My scar is like this right now, but not 24 hours. Like nobody told me, like, well, be careful. You're going to have stitches. You're going to have staples. Like, this is my first time having surgery. So,
wow.
So it was, I'm like, you cannot become so detached from reality because you do this day in and day out.
Yeah. That's so true. It's like they just get prone to like it's normal, like because they see it day in and day out. So that just really validates more on ask more questions.
Yes.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because this is the first time that I hear this diagnosis. I might be the 50th patient today that you told that they had cancer, but this is my first time. My entire life is upside down. So if anybody in the medical profession is listening, please come back to the roots, because it's like, no, you need to connect with my reality, not your reality. Explain things better. Don't tell me my scar is going to be like this, but don't clarify that it's going to be in 2 years when it's completely healed. Because I don't know that. I'm not in your head. So I tell you, oh, you're going to be okay, right? You have knee surgery, and I tell you, you're going to be okay. And it's true. But if I don't tell you, you need to do physical therapy every day, you need to exercise every day, it's going to hurt like a motherfucker every day until you do get better. You're going to be okay in a year, but not in the next 3 months. And I think that a lot of times the doctors forget that because they're exposed to this every day. And it's true. You're going to be okay. My yoga teacher had both knees replaced, and she's teaching again, but it took her 2 years to come back. Right? So you're going to be okay. Nobody says you're not going to walk again. But can we clarify a little bit?
The details, right? Yeah.
Like, therapy is a lot of work. You're going to be okay, but it's a lot of work. So don't give up when she gets real, right? And tough.
Absolutely. Did you ever go through phases of anxiety or depression through that process and that journey for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I first got diagnosed, I was asking, first of all, I said that I was going to die tomorrow, right? Because like that's how ignorant I was about breast cancer. I didn't know that there was different stages, different, like what the survival rate is. Like I didn't know anything about it. But so I started asking, why me? Right? I was so depressed. I was with this victim mentality. And then so I don't have children, but I had my mom at the time. I had my sister, I had nieces, I had girlfriends. And then I started reflecting, if it wasn't me, would I have preferred that it was one of them? And the answer was no. So then I switched the question from why me to why not me. And once I changed the question, then I had a decision to make. Will I fight? Will I sit in the corner and die, waiting to die? Or will I get up and fight? Spoiler alert, so far I'm winning, right? Like, so, but but I was so depressed. I was so anxious. I didn't know if my treatment was going to work. I'm refusing the chemo, right? Taking a huge risk. So I know now that my treatment was successful, but at the time I was doing it, I didn't know. right? Like, oh, I have an injection and I hope that works, right? Like, so we go to depression and anxiety on a regular basis in our lives, even if we don't have a cancer diagnosis, but it gets magnified with a huge diagnosis. And the best thing to do, like if it's anxiety, is to take a deep breath and use a grounding technique and come back to the present moment. And if it's depression, to kind of like, so anxiety is about trying to control the future, which is impossible because the future is not even here, right? Oh, what's going to happen on Wednesday? I have a meeting. Well, today is not Wednesday and the meeting is not happening right now. So don't fucking worry about it, right? Like what you can do right now about that meeting is to do research so you are better prepared, right? That you take action. Depression is about kind of like feeling guilty, if you would, about decisions that were made in the past. I'm oversimplifying this. But so what I can do about that decision that I made in the past, because I cannot go back and change it. So what can I do about it? I can reflect about it, learn from that, and make a better decision next time, right? I always say we are either happy or we are learning something. So when we are going through the bouts of depression or anxiety, it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry that I blah, blah, blah in the past. Okay, so can I look at that and make a better decision next time?
Right. Oh, I love that. I love that you said we're always either happy or we're always learning something, because if we're not happy, then we're definitely getting tested with challenges to learn, because that's what challenges are for. They're to help us learn. Being happy is great and being at the top is great, but you don't learn at the top. You enjoy at the top. When you're working your way to become the best version of yourself, you go through challenges, you go through loneliness, anxiety, all of that. And all of that is teaching you something on how to be a better version of yourself. So I really love how you said that. When you were in school and you were studying for your bachelor's and your master's, because you started at a later age, were there points in your life where you felt behind compared to your classmates? Did you ever have that idea of comparing yourself to the people around you?
No. If anything, my classmates kept me young, right? And with the modern times, they were teaching me about Instagram. Like, what the fuck do I know about Instagram and social media? But they were like, but I felt as if I'm doing this for me. So I'm like, I was kind of like the grandma or the mom in my bachelor's, and because in your bachelor's program you have kids from high school, right? And I was already 42 when I started, so it's like I can be your mom. And then I was 50 for my master's degree, so it's like they are 25. So like, so I remember one time I had two classmates in front of me. One was 27 and one was 23, and I said, bitches, it takes the two of you to make up my age. You know what I mean? But I brought life experience. So they were sharing the new stuff with me, right? They were teaching me the new stuff, and I was sharing more like life experiences and life lessons. And I think that when I have a client, I do believe in leading by experience, right? Like, so when I have a client telling me like, oh, I'm too old to go back to school, I'm like, excuse me? I went like, I started at 42. I did my master's at 50, and English is not my first language. What is your excuse? You are barking at the wrong tree.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I did it. So you cannot tell me. I'm not telling you you can do it because I'm this Pollyanna old bitch telling you, oh, I believe in you. No, I'm fucking telling you can do it because I did it. Right? Like, so it's like I started podcasting at 59. Hello.
Wow.
Don't tell me it cannot be done because I'm fucking doing it. Right? Like, so if anything, I felt privileged that I was able to be in a classroom full of people from not only a different generation but a different culture, right? And thinking like, oh, I'm glad I'm old because I don't have to go through all the shit that they are going through right now, like dating and whatever it might be. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm glad that, I already did that part in my life. But if anything, I felt very self-conscious at the very beginning of my bachelor's about participating because I was bullied so much about my accent. But I had a professor, it was one of my first classes that I took. And I went to talk to him, and I said, because participation was a big part of the grade. And I said, I want to participate, but I've been bullied so much about, and so he grabbed a book and he started, okay, read this and read this and read this. And he was like, I understand perfectly. So I want you to participate. Bless his heart, because he opened up the door for me. If he would have taken a different approach, maybe I would have never participated. But I was always asking questions. I was the one reading every word of the chapter because I was paying for it. And if anything, I got favor from the professors because they love, at least my experience, they love all the students because they know you are there because you really want to. Right? So yeah. I had a great experience in school. And, I encourage anybody who is thinking about trying something new. What can you lose? So let's say that social work didn't work out. Okay, I can go back to accounting. No, I didn't erase all my accounting knowledge to incorporate the social work knowledge. It's more knowledge. So if it doesn't work out, you're back at square one. But with the satisfaction that you tried something and it didn't work out. Instead of thinking like, oh, what if I would have enrolled at school at 42? So my reality today started in 2007 when I took my first English 101 class, right?
We all have to start somewhere.
Building my future at that. I was building this present moment at that time. So the time will pass anyway, right? I was going to be 50 with a degree or 50 without a degree. The time passes anyway. What do you do with the time? You are 100% in control of that. So you can be 45 having the job of your dreams, or you can be 45 in that job that you despise. Which one is it going to be?
I like how you said that. You're like, I'm going to be 50 either way, and I can be 50 with this degree or 50 without a degree because I didn't want to step outside of my comfort zone and to do it. Like, time doesn't wait for anybody. I remember when I was going through some hard times in my past relationship, I was thinking to myself, I can sit here and cry all day about how hard it is, but time is not going to wait for me. The world doesn't stop spinning. So it's up to us if we get up and do something about it, or if we just let time pass and continue sitting in our own pity.
Right. Absolutely. And once we start taking action, shit starts happening.
Absolutely. That's so incredible. Zulma, you were so inspiring. And, You are just getting started. Like, this is so incredible. Um, I have one more question for you. What does it mean for you to be nourished inside out?
We cannot give from an empty vessel. So nourishing ourselves on the inside is what allow us to be providing that nourishment on the outside. So it's like when I'm doing stuff for myself and I'm getting nourished inside, that's when I can be more present and better available to other people. A lot of times, as women, and especially if you have children, again, I don't, but I have friends who have children. One has 6, another one has 4. I'm like, thank you for having my share of children. When you are a mom, in women in general, but especially when you're a mom, you put yourself at the bottom of the list. And what I ask women to do is to put themselves at the top, because again, like, you cannot give from an empty vessel. So once you nourish yourself, then you can nourish everybody around you. But if you are depleted of energy, of nourishment, of love, of time, of whatever it might be, how can you give that to others? I talk too much. So answering the question is, being nourished inside allows me to provide nourishment to my loved ones.
That's incredible. And where can people stay in touch with you and where can they support you? Because I know you have a podcast as well. So where can they get more of you?
Yes, thank you. My Instagram at the Swearing Therapist, and my podcast is called Keeping It Real with Zulma, the Swearing Therapist.
Perfect. I'll have that link down in the show notes below so people can stay in touch. Thank you for joining us today, Zulma.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.